So, I had a lot of fun shooting this review, but unfortunately I got a little carried away and it ran really long. So, the first video will be dealing with just the transformations, the overviews, and the combinations and things like that. And then the second video will contain just the commentary and opinions, because this is probably going to be the end of my reviews for MMPR Season 1, since I don't have any other MMPR 1 toys at this time. So make sure that when you're done watching one video that you go watch the other video, because it is meant to be taken as a complete package. Look. I remember back in late 1993, just before Titanus made his debut, there was a rumor going around the intermediate school that I was attending that there was going to be a 7th White Ranger that was going to come along and take command of the yet-to-be-named, yet-to-be-announced Carrier Zord. Still waiting for that 7th White Ranger. Whenever someone says you have a hole in your head, I don't know why there's a hole there. Obviously that's his nose, but one of the things that always bugged me about Titanus is he had an odd number of teeth across the top. Anyways, those two joints there and that joint there are the only posability options you get in this set. That's it. Everything else is due to transformation or gimmick. I will say, though, that unlike Megazord and Dragonzord, Titanus definitely brought the detail. Very nice detail. I love his giant paws. Those are so awesome. Totally un-Brachiosaurus-like, but still, love the detailing. There's even detailing on the treads, which was pretty sweet. Oh no, I gave away the gimmick. Oh well. There were supposed to be 3 wheels on each side, but they totally cheated us and only gave us 2. The least I could have done was paint it. Of course, I have to remind myself, back in '93, it was actually cheaper to make decals than it was to add paint applications. But still, detail was very nice. I don't know why, and I can't think of any other toy that does it, but the inside of his back legs had little cardboard sheaths in there. Like, you could actually dig these things out of there if you took the decals off, unscrewed. That white panel in there, that's actually cardboard. That's cardstock in there. I don't know why. I guess they're just worried about dust getting in there or something. And then they totally cheated on us by, only half molding the inside of his tail. But still, details on his tail, pretty nice. By the way, kids, if your mom tells you to get your toys out of the sun, out of the weather, listen to them, because, yeah, that's totally what happened to mine. You can see the yellow sitting up here. Let's see, I can see the yellow there, the contrast, even to the leg here, and the hand here, and all up and down there. So, yeah, kids, when your parents tell you to get them out of the sun, listen to them, because 18 years later, they end up looking like they've been in a house that's had smoking in it, which is totally not true. That's an awesome transition, by the way, Ava. Now on to the gimmickry. Aside from obviously combining with the Megazord and Dragonzord, Titanus had a gimmick all to himself. He could do this, which I thought was rather clever in how the paws swing back and forth, like that. And by the way, the wheels are tied together, in case you didn't notice the reciprocating. This is a terrible angle. I'm not used to shooting from the left side of the camera. Forgive me. So yeah, just like in the show. That's sweet. So anyways, there's a little switch right here. You push inwards, and you get oh boy. Even 18 years later, that motor is still running strong. You know what? I'm just going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone. And no, the back wheels do not move. I wish they had, you know, just like twist like this. That would have been awesome. But that's good enough. You cannot, you know, when the motor's engaged, you could mess around with it, but you could mess around with it when it was freewheeling like this. And I had to remind myself, when you take the, actually battery compartments down here, the Japanese dialogue is up here. Text, dialogue, language, whatever. The battery compartment, even if you take the batteries out, if you push in, the motor will still be engaged. It's like a manual transmission, so if you push this in and the batteries are out, the motor will still be connected, but it will. So if you want to freewheel it, make sure this is out all the way, regardless of whether or not there are batteries inside or not. And that's all that Titanus can do by himself. So for this one, we're going to need the old boy himself and the accessories he comes with, which conveniently store away in his carrier section. These are the only metal chain ever to be released in a Power Rangers toy, and I mean ever. And these two accessory clip-ons. And also, strangely enough, the Deluxe Megazord in its attack tank mode. Now, the holes on these clip-on pieces always go on the forward side of this, okay? There's two sets of clips you're going to be dealing with here. There's the ones here, and then the ones here. The ones on the back specifically hook on to the holes underneath the saber-toothed tiger. I don't think it matters if you do it this way or this way, hollow side up or hollow side down. I don't remember, but I do it this way just so that it drags a little easier. It's okay if it does that. And then the clips. So you've got the bumps on the outside or on the back end. Now you're going to need these here, and you're actually going to slip them in between the claws here. It will be uneven when you get them in place. One will be a little further forward than the other, but that's okay. And then you are going to hook the chain in like that. It's not a great fit, but it'll do. And that actually does, or I should say does not matter which way you do this. So what you're going to end up with at the end of the day is this, okay? It doesn't take a lot of tugging to get those things off, so be careful how you do that. And then, positioning the chain thusly, you get this. Which never ever happened in either Power Rangers or Jew Ranger, and was probably a heck of a blow to the Megazord's ego, don't you think? And that, simply, is the only time that you see these getting used anywhere. So, otherwise you can put these off to the side or put them back inside Titanus, whatever you prefer. But in order to make any of the other combinations involving Titanus, you're just going to have to set these off to the side somewhere so that they can be sat on or stepped on or any other number of painful scenarios. Oh yeah, when this guy rolled out of the swamp and onto the scene, why is he hanging out in a swamp, by the way? You knew that ownage was not far behind. I never quite liked the way that these things were attached, because it pegged into here, but then it pegged into here. The reason I don't like it is because on this side, you'll see what happened. The peg just popped off one day. I mean, it holds in place nice and well, as is the case with this one, but you had to snap it on here, and you try and wiggle it off, and pow! So, yeah, that was a bit of a problem that you had to deal with. So, yeah, I never liked the way that was set up. So, take off his tail. The way they do it in the show is, you know, usually the camera angle shoots from down here. But we're just going to peg these in like so. Never entirely satisfied with the way those attached either. take this off to reveal his boobs, I guess. Now, the problem with getting these things out of here is you have to open this up first, which actually I have not shown you yet. Some cute little techie details in there. Anyways, you have to push on this thing right here to this has actually gotten tighter over the years, but it was never easy. There we go. Like I said, that's actually gotten tighter over the years. And what you had to do, pull that back one notch, and then flip the whole thing out, like so. Now, ordinarily his head is in, let's see, head bent bad angle. Ordinarily his neck, you pull it back to open this thing up. This is the normal position. This is the position for the Ultra Zord. And then tilt his head upward to compensate. Okay, so that's all the things we do with him. The Mega Dragon Zord transforms exactly the same way as it always does. Here's something that's interesting. We're going to be taking Titanus' right claw and attaching it to Mega Dragon Zord's left arm. Likewise, the left claw goes on the right side. Never entirely satisfied with how those click on there, but it'll do. And then we're going to be taking Titanus' chest artillery piece, which oddly he never shut off, and we're going to be using the same two connection points that the pterodactyl uses on to attach to the attack tank mode. You can see here and on this side here, and we're just going to set that on there. It used to snap on there, it used to click, but this toy is 18 years old after all, so. But even after 18 years old, that still looks badass. But wait, there's more! Ever wonder why it is that this thing could come off? I mean, why didn't they just mold it on as a single piece and then paint it and add decals? You know, why didn't they do it that way? Well, the reason is because you have to do that in order to get this to fit into here. So it fits in there nice and snug. You see, I'll reverse it for a moment here. If you left it out like this, it would drag along the ground. And eventually what would happen is it would just tilt like that. Ooh, it's going to pop out. So anyways, that is the reason why that always tilted inwards. And it fits in there quite nicely, I would say. So there's that. And then lastly, you never saw the back side of the Ultra Zord in the show, but what you do is you take the Dragon Zord tail, and it doesn't really matter which way it goes. And it becomes Ultra Zord's rear defense. Yeah, I don't get it either. So anyways, now we're done with him. Then you just put this guy in here. Then you just put this guy in here. Then you just put this guy in here. Then you put this guy in here. And there's actually one of two ways. There's actually a couple of different ways you can do this, but I'm going to first show you the way that that they show you in the instructions, just because that's the official way to do it. What you're going to do, and unfortunately you do have to put his hands together like this in order to get enough chain to work with, but you actually plug it into these holes on either side of his neck, or the base of his neck rather, which if the tripod was not here would be a lot easier to do. So forgive me if I take a little bit of time here. And I also apologize for the shaking. I had dinner a little while ago, and it's playing absolute havoc with my motor control right now, so gotta make that as tight as possible. Now, the reason I don't like doing it this way is because there's little or no friction down here. These are actually screw holes down here. Why is that not sticking in there? But anyways, screw it. I've never liked the way these fit in here. There just wasn't enough friction down here. So the way that I do it, actually, to be honest, I think they do it that way in the show. I said do. I think they do it that way in the show. The video footage I've been able to find of the Ultra Zord is so fuzzy on YouTube and others. But the way that I prefer to do it, and it makes a little more sense, it's a little more horse-like, a little more, rider controlling his ride, is I like to put it into these very intentional holes that are not screw holes on either side of his neck. Yeah, I know it makes him look a little Frankenstein, but whatever. And there you have, at long last, the original, the one and only true... Can I pull back far enough? Yes, I can. Ultra Zord. Oh, yeah, and by the way... So rather than grab this thing by the base and slowly turn around, which is really boring, although I do wish I had a motorized turntable, or pick it up and twirl it about, which wouldn't really be a good idea because some of these things are just sitting here. They're not actually snapped into place. I decided this time, one of the rare occasions where I'm going to go freestyle camera, handheld. Not a whole lot much changes except for the additions that Titanus offers up, obviously. I never liked entirely why that thing just sticks up there. I know why it's there, but just... Decal right there. Cute little piston right there. What am I pointing at? I have no idea. There's that thing. I don't know. It's a little... Perhaps the only dissatisfying part of the Ultra Zord was just kind of from the back. And I think that's it. Now, unlike when he's by himself, Titanus does retain use of the neck joint right there. I'm not going to twirl it very far for fear of these things popping off. But definitely tilting his head back and opening up his mouth helps a bit. So, it's a very tight fit in there, by the way. And also it's a really close fit back here as well. It's a shame that this doesn't fit up like that because it's so obviously designed to do so. But, oh well. It's a very, very, very tight fit. I can't see what the camera's seeing. I don't know, having those cannons sitting right there, that's such a good idea. Or something like that. And so I think that will do for my Ultra Zord wraparound. And now for some motorized rolling action. Now, according to the instructions, which, by the way, I still have after 18 years, there's actually a couple of other Ultra Zord combinations that you can make using these three sets. Now, obviously there's, well, duh, you can make this, of course, but you can also make this and this, which is perhaps my least favorite of these alternate combinations. Not to mention the fact that it's impossible to get the chain and the claws there. Just forget about it. And this, which in concept sounds interesting, the Dragon Zord, which everybody loves to death, obviously, riding solo atop Titanus. I mean, that sounds interesting. And his tail, okay. But there's two things. One, he looks like crap without his tail attached to him, and it really doesn't look that great, because, okay. And the other thing is you can only loop the chain around one hand at a time, so that's a bit of a cheat, because it doesn't fit over there. So, nice idea, but just, doesn't work very well for me. And also this, which is actually the way I had the Ultra Zord for the longest time, because I actually got Titanus before I got the Dragon Zord. More on that later. And it's incredibly awesome to have the Megazord with just, full-on artillery happening right here. Although one thing I like to do once in a while is actually have Titanus hang on to it. Like the bit on a horse, I know that's a little BDSM, but it's a possibility. So if you like playing with the toys beyond what they're intended to do, you've got a couple of options with these three. For those of you wondering what the differences are between the Deluxe Titanus, the Carrier Zord set, and its original Japanese counterpart, the DX Ju Kishin King Brachion set from the 1992 Super Sentai series Kyoryu Sentai Ju Ranger, by now I think it's safe to say that pretty much everybody knows that the first 3 seasons of the Power Rangers toys all had heavily modified stickers. As a matter of fact, on Titanus here, the only sticker that survived completely intact is this one right here. That's the only one that survived intact. And actually I think that the gold on here was actually maybe it was a little thicker, I'm not sure. But otherwise all other stickers are completely different. There's another exception, kind of, right here. My finger wedged. Ouch. The black detail here, and then the white area immediately around it. Yeah, it's a little sun-bleached. But anyways, this black kind of techie detail, and then the white around it are the same as King Brachion. However, the gold and black striping around the outside here was changed. So this decal is kind of the way it used to be. It's kind of half accurate, half not. And then this decal here is exactly the same as King Brachion. Otherwise, all other decals were modified. And also, all materials in this toy are exactly the same. As a matter of fact, this toy is notable for being one of the few in both Power Rangers and Super Sentai to not have any soft PVC in it whatsoever. So everything in here is hard, solid ABS. And, well, it also came with a chain, but And the few paint applications that exist, well, the only paint applications on the head, survived intact. However, this is something that I haven't quite seen before out of Bandai America. I mean, ever. In the 18 years since this toy's come out, I've never seen anything quite like this. Bandai America actually added some paint applications to this toy, and it's kind of strange. People probably wondered, why is it they didn't just continue the paint down here? Well, here's the funny thing about that, and, a little bit of paint up here. Well, here's the funny part. This gold was actually added for Titanus. With King Brachion, is originally black. There was no paint application on his back. So, for Titanus only, the gold application was added. That's the only other paint other than the head that was added. I don't know why they did it, but it is arguable enough that gold highlights do add quite nicely to the mostly black and a little bit of white of this toy. So, hey, I'm not complaining. Now, when it came to the Megazord and Dragon Zord, the modifications that they made to the stickers on the Daijujin and Dragon Caesar were in the area of what they were in their original Japanese counterparts. They kind of sort of looked like it, but they had slightly different decoration to them. So, nobody, especially on the Megazord, the modifications were not that heavy. With Titanus, however, it actually was a pretty heavy modification, and I'm actually really surprised how elaborate those changes were. I don't know how well this is going to come up, but the modifications were quite extensive. These dots, I don't know how well this is turning out on the camera, but these dots here are actually pictograms. I think the most commonly held example of a modern pictogram, if you can call it that, would be Egyptian hieroglyphics. And so these are all pictograms right here. This is not Japanese. This is not kanji or hiragana or katakana or any of those others. These are all pictograms here. And that has a lot to do with, I think, the story, the way the art of the art design of Jew Ranger worked out. You know, the ancient language that was used by the Jew Ranger. I don't know many of the details from that show. But anyways, yeah, these are all pictograms here. I don't know if they actually say anything, but it is rather interesting to look at it and say, wow, there was actually a lot of gold on this. So the modifications between King Brachion and Titanus were actually pretty significant. This book is so awesome. I love this thing. And so those are the differences between Titanus and King Brachion.